Welcome, flip clock fans. You're looking at a clock that recently came up on eBay as a non-working flip clock. I want to thank the seller Flippin Bridge City. Great service, great packaging. You should check out this seller. This is the Seth Thomas Wall Maid model 2471. The clock came in this color they called Harvest Gold, the model 2471, white, model 2472, and avocado 2470. The clock showed up in the Seth Thomas catalog in 1971 and made a limited appearance in newspaper ads. In 1971 it retailed for $30, then by 1972 it was being discounted as low as $18.88. The clock is a fairly large-sized flip clock that is advertised as being able to be displayed on the desk, table, or wall. In looking at the clock, my first impression is that it was well used, and secondly, someone shortened the cord here. I won't be powering this on until I check on the situation. I think it's curious that the wall hanging hole is off-centered. I've never seen that on a clock before in all my years of flip clockery. Obviously, its placement is designed to address the unbalanced weight due to the likely location of the motor here on this side. That's still just a little strange. The mechanism of this clock is very familiar to me, with these large digits. It's almost certainly the same mechanism used in the Seth Thomas oval wall clock I have here in Flip Clock Fan Studios. Except the one on my wall uses a battery-operated mechanism. They called it the Speed Read Battery Wall Clock Model 849. I've altered this clock using white digits instead of the supplied black. It's going to be interesting to see what drives this wall-made clock and if it can be fixed. The font on this clock is just a little different from the wall clock. I know from previous experience with these mechanisms that the 4 screws are just to hold the mechanism in place. We don't need to remove them right away. Clearly, to get into this clock, we're going to have to remove the front piece. Because I've never had one of these open before, I'm going to wait to see how this knob is attached on the inside before I start yanking on it. The mechanism is very smooth. It's almost for sure Japanese made. If I remember from the oval clock, it's Japanese. Now we're going to get in this clock for the first time together on camera. Usually I like to test out opening up a clock so I don't fumble so much on camera, but here it goes. I can see tabs on the top and bottom, so I'm going to try to pry this up. Well, that was easy. And there it is, definitely the same mechanism as the other clock. It all looks to be in pretty fair shape. Here you can see that it's using a General Time capsule motor to power the clock. It has 2 neon bulbs, but they are very blackened. Obviously this clock was used for years. We'll have to replace those. I'm not sure what all this garbage here is. It looks like something spilled then dried up. It's got a crystalline texture, like glass sort of. I'm not sure what this is, but we'll look into it. I'm going to cut this gob of tape to make sure there's a good safe connection here before I go any further. This was done years ago. It's hardened. I really didn't need to get this clock, but for some reason I keep picking up Seth Thomas clocks. It's turning into a common type of clock in the Flip Clock Fans collection. The main type being the Copal clocks, then historic type clocks, but a strong third are the Seth Thomas clocks. We seriously almost named my second son Seth, with Thomas as his middle name. This was before I was into clocks at all. And once my wife found out that it was a clock brand name, she said no. She didn't want her boy named after a clock. I think that would have been very, very cool now. We named him Benjamin. He's all grown up now, over 6 foot tall. We all call him Big Ben. Anyway, the connection here seems okay. Looks like something I would have done in my younger years. Actually, it looks like a gorilla put this together. But it probably worked fine for decades. These screws, as I mentioned before, just hold the mechanism in place. They're machine screws. It's one of those situations that people who work on clocks will end up cracking the plastic case by tightening too much. Torquing down a machine screw from plastic into metal on the inside. It's very common to see cracks in these areas. It's a major pet peeve of mine, as many of you know. I just hope someone picks up on this before they damage a clock. But hey, I've made many mistakes over the years and still do to this day. Part of the deal with flip clocks, I think. The knob. I forgot about that. It's just a press-on knob, no problem. Well, that came off easily. At this point, I'm just giving the situation a once-over. Everything looks like it's in pretty good shape, especially for a well-used clock. There's no obvious burnout wires, no apparent bungled-up gears, no clear reason why this clock wouldn't work. The problem is starting to point to the motor, unfortunately. I'll double-check these connections to make sure something hasn't come undone or become corroded or anything like that. It's not likely, but I've got to check. I've said in other videos before, these crimped-on white wire nuts are usually a sign that no one has been inside the clock messing around. I always hate to disturb these, but I'll probably have to. Like I said, things are starting to point to the motor as a possible problem. The motor has two basic parts, the capsule that has the specific gearing needed to run the particular clock, and an outer cage that has the winding, and that makes up the rotating magnetic field that causes a component inside the sealed can to rotate and move the gears, eventually moving the clock. You can get the motor assembly off the clock by unsnapping these metal spring holders. It usually just snaps right off. Just having a little technique problem here. Oh yeah, I think I remember that it's easier if you depress the swelling here to take off some of the pressure. Piece of cake, right? I hope you guys appreciate seeing me fumble around here. I could cut this video and make myself look better, but I'm getting too old to care what I look like, to the chagrin of both my wife and young adult kids alike. Well, heck, snapped right off. It's more finesse than force. So I'm going to have to investigate a little further to see what's going on here. I've been messing with the clock and motor for a little while. Sometimes the clock works and sometimes it doesn't. But look at all this garbage. It's looking like this stuff is coming out of the motor itself. But in looking at the motor, it looks like it's gotten swollen and possibly damaged by the heat of long-term use. Again, probably decades of use. One of the reasons I think that can be seen if you look at this mechanism. It tries to turn backwards. There's almost always some component to stop against backward movement. In this situation, it's this little spring-loaded hand on this gear that is supposed to stop backwards movement. I can see that the spring is working fine, but the arm has actually been worn away by years of use. I have never seen that kind of wear in a flip clock. It's crazy. But back to business. I had to search the totes and the dungeons of flip clock parts to look for a motor to replace this. I was surprised to find in the very first tote I opened this Zenith Circle of Sound parts clock. This Zenith used the General Time Seth Thomas West clock's tape-style mechanism that was run with a capsule motor. Evidently, I pulled off the gear can and got what I needed. And here's exactly what I need today, a coil that seems to be in great shape. I'll just have to swap this with the failed one. You can tell the coil is not swollen and hopefully it works okay. Just as a side note, the wires in this coil are extremely fine and can actually be damaged by aggressive soldering. I've put new pigtails on this coil. The coil assembly is exactly the same size and shape. It's just a matter of taking the one off and pressing on the replacement. You can see the paper-wrapped coil and the difference in size. It's really simple to get this coil off. The can has high and low spots that made up to the coil. It can be put on in various positions. That shouldn't matter except for how the leads line up with the rest of the electronics and how the spring holders attach from the clock to the motor. Really simple. Once put back together with the new bulbs, everything is back like the old days. The only thing is that I didn't replace or fix the mechanism that prevents backward movement. It'll be fine as long as no knucklehead besides me messes with the clock. Well, there it is, the Seth Thomas Maid in Harvest Gold, the model 2471. Thankfully restored by using parts from a clock from the Flip Clock Fans Dungeon. Thanks for taking the time.